In episode 10 of the Dadger, we're joined by one of the most iconic fullbacks to ever wear the cardinal and white, Matt Bernstein, aka the Hebrew Hammer. Known for his bruising style at Camp Randall, Matt opens up about life beyond the gridiron. Now a proud father of two girls, co-host of Believe in Badgers podcast, and a dedicated member of the Wisconsin Foundation and Alumni Association. Bernstein brings energy, heart, and humor to everything he does, from pancake blocks to parenting wins. Let's go. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Hey, thanks. Parenting wins? Where are those?
I did some dives on your Instagram, so.
Listen, you know what? It's funny. Parenting wins, they come in every bit, size, huge, small. Somehow I got my kids by myself to daycare today, both of them in clothes with shoes on, like socks are on, like it's parenting wins, man.
It's the little things. It's like,
you know, I didn't have like one of those like moments of like, oh my God, take a breath. We got in the car. Right. I don't know how this happened. It's a miracle, but gotta love some parenting wins.
So let's start with a little bit about yourself, your upbringing. So you had two younger brothers, born and raised in Edgemont, New York.
Yep.
Can you just tell me a little bit more about your upbringing and kind of what family life was like growing up for you?
Sure, dude. New York. I grew up in New York. I would say Edgemont's part of Scarsdale, which a lot of people know. It's it's a very uppity up area. Although Edgemont is not part of Scarsdale. If you wrote me a letter, it is. But we have our own sports teams. I went to Edgemont High School. I only say that because we're competitive, but it's like David and Goliath. They have thousands of people go to school. We have. I think I graduated 111. Loved it, man. My dad was a dentist. The guy worked his tail off. My mom was a teacher. So they grinded as parents. You watch them like, we did have like I would say like a nanny, but not really. Like she lived in our house. She lived in Queens or the Bronx. So it's like in and out, somebody in and out. It was kind of wild, but dude, it was great, man. Played football, played every sport I could possibly play. How old are you, by the way?
I am 33, going to be 34 this year.
33. So you might have been around this, but I'm 42. My dad would drop me off at school at 7:45 in the morning. Bell rang at 8:30. Yeah. And we would play sports outside by ourselves. I'm talking about elementary school, dude. You can't do that with kids anymore. Oh, yeah. I won't even let my kid stand outside on our patio without me eyes on. I guess it's sad where we are, but so great upbringing. We played basketball. I played every sport under the sun. I played soccer as a little kid, and then in elementary school, I guess I was kind of a rowdy, crazy kid, a lot of energy, not sure how to focus that energy. And my mom said, we're going to play football. You seem like you're the type. My mom didn't play sports. My dad was a baseball and basketball player, grew up in Queens. They both grew up in the city. Their education in sports world is like very little. My dad played on the street. Like he didn't really play any sports, organized sports. Dad went to Albany. Mom went to BU. So it's the farthest they've ever went was like Boston. Mm-hmm. And lucky, played football. A lot of parents kept their kids in it, drove us to games, got coaches for us, coached when the coaches couldn't I have a friend group who still talks about, it's all football guys who still talk about how they kept it together, and then luckily, in high school you play with, it's a small window. You play with dudes who are 2 years older or 3 years older. I was a freshman when I played on the varsity team. And then when you're a senior, you play with ninth graders, and some of those dudes play, at least in my neck of the woods. And, I think lucky to have some hard-nosed coaches who wouldn't let you just be late or miss a weight room. Grew up in a nice place, riding my bike everywhere, dropping it on the ground and going into stores, never worried about that type of stuff. Come home at dinner time, no cell phones until I got to college. That's why I still have a 608 number. So I don't know if that's a long-winded answer, but I look back fondly on my high school time. I think I had probably the best experience. And then one of the coolest things ever is to go from New York and not know anything about Wisconsin pretty much at all. There's no social media. There's no Dairyland. There's nothing. And, you get a letter from them one day saying, do you want to come to school here? My dad's like, we need to go look at that place. And I'm like, I don't even know where it is. I don't even know if I passed high school geography, like USA geography. Yeah. And like, it's one of those things where my dad always knew what was best for me. This is what I'm like truly hoping to be as a parent, is someone who has looked out for me in every single which way. Financially, we could talk about it. Best advice. He worked really hard. He even worked on weekends. Dentists work Saturdays. But this dude would go to Buffalo. It's like 6 hours away to film a game because he was needed. He did the chains. It's like this guy really took it upon himself to be at things, even though he was, my mom was a teacher, but he was like the main breadwinner. And he really was, as much as he could come to, he was there. My mom was at everything. She has a famous quote in the paper saying, "Are you scared for your sons to play football?" And she goes, "No, I'm scared for everybody else's sons." So
yeah,
it's a pretty.
I have that in here because I was like, that is like the most badass line I've ever.
And my mom didn't grow up around sports. She grew up with two brothers, and she was she's the youngest. I think she's the youngest, so she definitely got picked on. She might be the middle, and so she knew what it was about, but nobody knew what football was about. And then we started having some success, and then it just took off from there. But my dad's like, dude, we got to go visit Wisconsin. And I'm like, no way. He's like, it's the best night. So talk about being a dad, right? I went to Syracuse football camp, and he goes, do not sign anything and do not accept anything. Just say, I need to think about it. I need to talk with my dad. They take you up in a room at football camp, and Paul Pasqualoni's there, and they go, we want to offer you a scholarship. Will you accept it? And I was like, hey, we have to have
that's some high pressure situation
Dude,
for a high school.
If I never had that, if my dad didn't say, do not say yes,
right, I
would have said yes.
Oh, for sure.
I'd be a freaking orange person. And I would have, I don't know. I don't agree with orange. I like red. So we, and then we went out to Wisconsin, and my dad's like, this is the place for you. This is Big Ten. This is where, so we'll get into it, I'm assuming, but there's just so much good stuff, and how I guess you and I and probably a ton of fathers out there are trying to do the same for their kids and give them the best advice. Now, as a parent of toddlers, they don't want that advice. Hey, you're going to fall off that table. You're going to fall off that chair. It's going to hurt. Did you bump your head? You did, right? I told you it was going to hurt. I don't know. I can't give you any better advice here. Sorry for the ramble, but yeah, man, it makes me happy to think about high school, college. This is 25 years ago at this point.
You talked about you played every sport, and you talk in an article with the article is called "The Great Rambino." You started playing football at a very young age. Obviously, I know in high school you did track and played basketball. Is it safe to say that football was your first love? And I guess what really drew you to it?
I'll tell you everything. The physicality. Thinking back, I started in third grade, and I was the oldest of my brothers, so I was the first one to start doing anything that involved a big duffel bag with pads, helmets, mouthpieces that you had to heat up in the water on your stove and put it in your mouth hot still because you needed to mold it. So did all those crazy things. And my mom was the best. She would try to pick me up, but if she couldn't make it, because practice started at 3:30, and it was 3:30 sharp, dude. And school ended at 3, and practice was at the other elementary school. So as a third grader, I can't get there. I don't have a bike at this point. There's no way. So we got rides from people who were in the same class. You run into 3 o'clock hits. You run with your duffel bag, big ass heavy duffel bag. Run into the what's it called? Put all your gear on. Do you know how hard it is to navigate football pads and gear in a cup? I'm like third grader. I don't even know what this cup is for.
Right.
Besides chafing, it's really all it felt like it was for. And putting all the pads on, and then literally holding a helmet with cleats on, walking out of an elementary school into someone's car to go to practice. And it was twice a week. And I just loved it, man. I loved being around the team. That was the first time they had both elementary schools on a team. Mm-hmm. I would say my first love was basketball. I loved running up and down. You could do it anytime you wanted, but we played football, 2-hand touch football all day long in elementary school and you had these great soccer players who were playing 2-hand touch football, but their parents wouldn't let them play play actual organized football.
Yeah.
So you had like this interesting group of people, and I would say less than 40, at a given time. And I would say the physicality and just the team aspect and guys on the team that, I would say every single I went to dinner with four of my best friends. They all played at third grade football with me. One was a fourth grader. So like, you have all these experiences, but football really it's a whole different sport. It truly is. And you need 11 dudes to do well on a play, or at least 9 and 2 guys to do like, okay. Like, it's crazy to think you have so many dudes to do. It's kind of like soccer, except you still have some individualism there, which I think soccer is amazing. But yeah, dude, basketball and football for sure. I mean, the violence is so fun.
So talking about the violence, your mom, we talked about, your mom arguably has one of the coolest lines mom could drop when a reporter asked her, are you scared for your sons to play football? She basically said, no, I'm scared for everyone else's sons. You also talk about once you hit the field in an article, you basically flip a switch and wanting people to fear you. Getting yourself in that mindset, was it just natural to do, or did you have to do something specific to get in that place mentally?
That's a good question. And I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. To play football, you really kind of have to be like, have a smidge of insanity, right?
Yeah.
You're putting on, it's like you don't crash your car into the wall for fun, right? Like,
well, that's why I always say punt returners and kick returners are the craziest dudes on the field, because I tried to do that in high school a couple times, and I was just like, nope. I'll stick to my position, man.
Literally hate kick return. It could be the worst position on the field, the worst team. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, I was probably the biggest person on my team in high school. Definitely not at college. But you grow up. In high school we were extremely well coached. We were conditioned hard. We lifted. This guy did weight room in the winter. So this guy, Coach Conley, called my dad. I was in eighth in eighth grader, going to be on the varsity in ninth grade. I came to the weight room. If I wasn't there at 3:15, you talk about the bell rings at 3 in high school, and at 3:15, he's like, if you're not going extra help, you should be here. Do you know how hard it is to get anywhere in 15 minutes? Like, it's not that easy. Also dressed, like, you didn't just
right. I was gonna say, put the pads on.
You didn't take all your stuff off. So he calls my dad, and he's like, hey, your son was 15 minutes late, and that's not acceptable. Do you know what my dad did? He's like, what the hell are you doing? Not going there at 3:15. So like, I think it's important. Like, we have all these figureheads that have helped me, at least in my development. That turned me into like, it kind of flips a switch of like, how dare this guy do that? But you go in I was in the weight room. We're lifting as 8th graders going into 9th grade, 9th, 10th, 11th. If you went to sleepaway camp, which is common, he said you had the opportunity to be here and you weren't. So at football camp, you'd wake up at 5:30 and do calisthenics. Dude, crazy stuff. But I was coached really hard in high school by a lot of different coaches. I think Coach Conley put together a staff that did everything. There's quotes of them like, we showed up to this team, we were playing in the section finals. Coach Conley's getting the film from them, and they're watching the Giants game. And the other head coach, like, do you want to watch? And Coach Conley's like, no, we got a lot of work to do. And so, like, people have invested in I guess my success and other people's success, which I think is unbelievable. And they're coaches, it's kind of what they're paid to do. But people take it to a whole different notch.
Yeah.
But we were successful. But again, biggest dude. But my brother probably like 5'11", 175, maybe 200. Let's say 200. Guy played guard. We ran a wing tee. Played guard and free safety, strong safety, and had the pick record for our high school. Probably still has it. And my younger brother was a 9th grader who was a halfback and a cornerback. And he says when he showed up, like, we didn't take it easy on these dudes because they were all going to be number 2s.
Right.
So, my brother Ben was a 9th grader, but he wasn't going to play, but he was one step or 2 injuries away from actually playing if he needed to.
Yeah.
So, like, he says, like, I showed up one day and I crushed him. And he's like, what's up, Matt? And I'm like, dude, we're not brothers here. We're football players. Something stupid, something like corny and stupid, like Varsity Blues. But So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. Well, I come from a very small town in Wisconsin. I had 30 kids in my graduating class. You went to Edgemont Junior Senior.
Yep.
And you had 635 kids in the high school from my research. Yep. You said that was kind of considered more on the smaller end. So I guess what was your competition like in that realm? But also, I would like to point out that I don't know if it still stands, but you did have the most points scored in with 504 total points over your 4-year career, making it the most in New York State prep history.
Interesting.
So what was the competition like if you're scoring that many points? Or were you just that big of a beast?
Well, I'll tell you, I think we were lucky. We had, again, I mentioned before, but we had parents who took it seriously, and we had people who invested into coaches. And, we had one year the parents couldn't do it, and they hired a guy to be our head coach. And I think the window of having, like when I was a freshman, we were 5-3. We were not good. And we saw how that wasn't okay. I was a freshman, we had these dudes. And then our sophomore year, nobody gave us, they're like, these guys will be just subpar. We had two of the best players in the state. This one guy, Drew Nadler, who was a quarterback, and Peter Coe was a fullback. And they moved me from, dude, I was so doofed out. I was horrible as a ninth grade. I wore a triple neck roll. I was a D lineman. But again, the physicality, like, I loved playing. I loved going up against these dudes and trying to dominate. And I had a little chip because I was a freshman, but you saw me run, you'd be like, oh, look at this guy. He sucks. I went to sleepaway camp that year, and all I did was play basketball. I lifted, but I played basketball every elective I could. And there's something about just, all the movements, the jumping, the side to side, the running, it just seemed to open up my stride. And maybe it would have happened without it, but I don't know. And I came back and my coach is like, okay, we're going to put you as a tight end this year and middle linebacker. So we changed the defense. And he was like, we're changing it for you. So as a sophomore, I was a middle linebacker calling all the plays and a tight end to these guys who were, Drew and Peter and this guy Dylan were like my idols. And one of my best friends, this guy Joey T, was the other tailback. So you're talking about like, we held each other accountable. We're like, you're going to do this, man. So I was down blocking and trying to kill people, and all legal. But man, yeah, dude, when he switched the defense, now there was a lot of bumps and bruises, like we went up to football camp and we scrimmaged a team called, I'm blanking on the name, but Coach Conley's brother was there. And it was a pissing contest. And they're a double-A school. We're Class C. So we're little, right? You're saying the competition.
Yeah.
And they are pulverizing us. And, obviously Coach Conley's very upset about it. We took a lashing. We ran. We did all the things you do when you don't play well. But it set the bar high, right? It set the bar real high, saying your standard here is not 5-3, which we were in ninth. The standard here is perfection. And maybe you won't reach it. So I think it's lucky because I had him, and then we went to Coach Barry, Coach Alvarez, and Coach White, who is the running back coach. And Coach White told me once that he's like, it's my job to get you to your genetic ceiling. And I want you to be there. That's where you will be your best. So I found it really interesting because I feel like all these coaches have done that in the past. But you mentioned, what's the competition like? It was good. I wouldn't say it was bad. I would say it was good. I would say it really mattered who your coaches were. They had some studs. New York Section 1 football doesn't get all the accolades it should or could. But again, it's not important. At least now it's not important. It wasn't truly important then. I'll tell you a funny story. We went up against New Rochelle. So you will know this name. Ray Rice was a freshman at New Rochelle High School. And we went to camp. We scrimmaged them in an inside drill. And so this is where it comes of like the expectations, but also you talk about, competition. We went against some inside drill. We're in a 4-3. They're a better team than us. That's New Rochelle. They win Class A or Class AA almost they do well.
Yeah.
And we smacked them. 10 plays in a row. Their coach is legendary. This guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame here in New York. He's like, Bernstein, nobody can block. They had an all-state tight end. I didn't even know the dude. I couldn't even figure out who he was. We were 10 plays in a row, 10 stuffs. They couldn't move the ball on us. And it was one of those, like, you know, those moments of like, we could do this. You know, we could be really good. But that was when I was a senior. But as a sophomore, something clicked. This is long drawn out, but in the offseason, when I was moving to tight end, there's one coach who is like, we're throwing every single Tuesday and Thursday at, I think it was like 6 o'clock after basketball. And we'll either be in the gym if it's cold or we'll be outside. So me and this guy, Drew Nadler, who I go to with wings with once a month because he's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Dude, we threw every day. Twice a week. Nobody does that stuff, right? Like,
right.
Nobody does it. The chemistry between us, I had 16 touchdowns as a sophomore, and all of them were thrown by him. I might have had a couple rushing, but I was so like, you talk about like those things happen organically sometimes, but there's someone in your life who like pushes you to do these things. And, you know, my parents are always open to letting me do all the, you know, do that and do this other stuff. But, you know, I want to go back to flipping the switch because I think that's in high school, you know, where you kind of take some lashings and you're like, I am never letting this happen again.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you know, once I got put to middle linebacker, these coaches are like, dude, this is the hardest hitting position we could find.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't do it, nobody can do it. You know, and you start building this chip and everyone's like, oh, Class C, you guys suck. Class AA is the best. This guy's the best. This guy's the best. And Class D is the smallest. That's to say where we fit in the pecking order. And it just somehow you get just amped up and you keep getting that feeling of like, I'm not letting this dude win, or, you know, F this guy or F this journalist, or, you know, F my coach who thinks I'm not doing well enough. Like,
it's the Michael Jordan complex.
But you know, it builds into like something. You have to harness it, right? Like,
right.
You can't let that explode. That's how people become like murderers.
Right.
You have to harness that kind of like built up aggression and take it out in ways that are applicable to football, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like once you start building, like when I was a sophomore in high school, I used to start screaming before games. I was going crazy, and I was exhausted. And I'm like, dude, you don't need to do this. You're already crazy. You don't need to scream before a game. Just go in there and start. And so my thing was, you know, like I was always a team player. I always wanted to win. I always wanted to do the best for the dudes next to me. They're all my friends. Same at Wisconsin. And it was just, you know, if I could hit somebody the hardest, that whole team's going to chill out. So everyone's going to be good.
Right.
Oh man, I'm sweating right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
Dude,
So I'm getting you.
Brock used to get me juiced up. Like, that dude used to get me to a whole new stratosphere. First off, he would give me a pre-workout. And after that, it was like, you know, the pre-workout gets you kind of up. But there's something about like that, you know, listen to like either Metallica or like I used to listen to Notorious B.I.G. would get me like bananas. And then you see Bot. And you like, you just, you know, he's all, you see him like, he can't sit still. He's going.
He was telling us stories about lifting and kicking over the boxes, and you know.
I mean, we had a lot of fun, but there were some people who were bananas, and I think I was one of them. You know, in a respectful way, like never trying to. I love Bod and JD and all those guys. I thought you're talking about investing time. Bod had to quit because he was investing 24 hours a day in us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I respect him so much for taking that, like, dude, I got to be with my kids at some point.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's hard to take, you can see the passion of what he did as a coach. He loved it. He loved it, dudes. Dude, Bod, if I said, Bod, come to New York, I need your help, he would get on the next flight. And I would do the same for him. It's crazy that those thoughts and like,
it definitely feels that way with all the players I've talked to from Wisconsin. Honestly, it's like, it's nuts. Like how everybody's so ingrained with each other, but we'll bring it back here. So you talked a little bit about, you got to play a couple different positions in high school. So I know you said Syracuse, they were recruiting you to play D-line, I believe. And then Joe Paterno at Penn State ended up passing on you. I guess, were there any other good recruiting pitches that stand out to you that almost had you going there?
There's a couple. Well, I'll tell you what. So when I came back from Wisconsin, I was like, let me think about it. It was a flight. It was 2 flights at the time. It was kind of a pain. I didn't have a cell phone. Like, you're like, I was a 18-year-old kid. I'm like, I'm going to be so far away. I have no idea what to do here.
Yeah.
I was good at being independent. Like, we would go to the city all the time and do crazy things. But, so I got the Syracuse one that made me feel real confident. I could drive there. I made that drive in high school a bunch. Penn State was a big one for an East Coast guy, right? Like it's Big Ten football. It's still 6 hours away. It's Joe Paterno. It's like all these things. And he passed. And my dad's like, listen,
too,
Joe Paterno just passed on you. Like my dad could rein it in pretty quick. And he's like, you know what? Look at this letter. Dude, by the way, we had a Harvard letter. I swear my dad took the lever and he goes, Harvard football. He's like, ha ha, and ripped it up. Just threw it away. And you know what? I never respected that dude more because that would have been a pipe dream to go to Harvard. I was a B student in high school. I was going to go to Harvard. But that didn't matter in this grip. But he said, come look at this. UConn says you'll never be a good football player. He's like, this is graphic. He's like, this is UConn. Who the hell are these guys? Right. Syracuse says UConn. So he's like, dude, you should accept Wisconsin. He's like, that's the biggest school you're going to get, and it's going to be the best for you. There's BC had a pitch. I'm a Jewish guy, so BC is it's not a Catholic school. Maybe it is. I'm on the phone with my dad, and I'm listening to him speak to this coach, and he's like, this is where I think being a dad is like, these stories are amazing. He's like, listen, coach, I know BC football. Everyone does. It's good football, man. You guys have dudes every year. He goes, the only problem is you have crosses in every room, right? You have crosses in every classroom. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, so what? He's like, we got Jewish kids here. My dad's like, you have like 15 Jewish kids. How is my son going to, one, feel safe there, fit in? My dad wasn't that worried. I was a humongous human being.
Yeah.
But he's like, he's going to meet a wife? Like, what's he going to do there? Just do football and like look at crosses all day. And so this guy was like trying to walk him off the end of the cliff. And it was pretty interesting conversation because my dad was trying to be respectful and just be like, listen, coach, it's not a good fit. And I'll tell you one thing that Wisconsin did, which, it seems kind of crazy. They had Father Mike traveled with the team. Dude couldn't have been nicer to me. Always respectful, we talked about everything. They would take the cross out of the room at football camp for me. You could see the dust outline, and they would take it out. So what's so cool about Wisconsin is they were so respectful of different guys and there are not many different religions on the team. But it's really cool that like every year they took it off. And I thought that was something special, right? Like, I don't even know, as a Jewish person, I would have done it. I would have just left it there. But but these guys did it. So when UConn said that, I was like, you know what, Dad? Going to Wisconsin, man. It's done. Let's be done with this.
Did you know right away that Wisconsin was gonna have you play fullback, or did you get recruited there
as an athlete?
I was gonna say, because a lot of guys don't actually get. Nobody wants to go play a fullback somewhere, but it's not a glamorous position to want to be recruited for. But so once they did make that decision, I talked a little bit to Brady about this, and it's probably a little bit different for you because you had a little more size than Brady. Because I think it said your freshman year going in, you were 6'1", 250 pounds. Does that sound about right?
That might have been nice. That might have been generous of them. I think 65.
But so, like, obviously for Brady, he had to put on weight. Was it like a pretty seamless transition for you to go right into that fullback role in terms of size, not in terms of like play style, I guess?
In terms of size, yes. However, when I showed up, Chad Coons was the fullback. And he was one of the best fullbacks, to play. It's funny. He's like in a weird space between Cecil Martin, who I actually think is the best fullback. And then you had me, and you had Brady Ewing, and you had Chris Presley. Like you had, after he left, it's like 5 or 6 dudes who could have been like also in that category, right? I actually think Brady Ewing's number 2. I think what he did as a fullback changed the entire – look at Alec Ingold. Like Brady Ewing trailblazed – that position with all the things he could do, and he was a physical back. I was just violent.
Yeah.
And I could catch and I could run the ball a little bit here and there, but like violence was my game, physicality. When I showed up, I was awful. Like Coach White said I was awful. Like he said I was god awful. No one thought I would play. But Coach White, I'll tell you, to go back, Coach White said, we're going to say you're an athlete. You're coming to play fullback. Okay. Like, there's no question. You're going to be a fullback. There was always a question, right? Like coaches tell you things.
Right.
But they also brought in a couple linebackers that year. I actually think like 3 or 4. So I kind of figured like, I'm not going to be that guy. Like I'm not going to play linebacker. I love being a linebacker, but I wanted to play college football on the offense, and I wanted to be a fullback. And I think physically, like being 6'1", 260, 265, and having the violent piece, being physical, it's another word for violence, was very helpful. Now, my skills were not tuned yet.
Yeah, so high school to college, everything gets bigger, faster, stronger, right? So was there a specific moment or play where it clicked for you that like, okay, I can play with these guys at a high level?
That's a great question. I showed up on a Tuesday in July, and everyone will tell you who played, you never show up on a Tuesday. It is the stadium stairs, right? This is JD. They would bring up Bot. These guys would have these huge speakers. They blast it. You could hear it around the whole entire, almost all downtown. And you would run up, and you blow a whistle. You run up the stairs. You run up the bleachers, not the stairs. It's even harder. You touch the wall. You had to touch the wall, and you jog across. Basically, by the time my fat ass got over, I was running up again. You're talking about doing like 8, 10, 12 of these. Like I was in no position. So I learned quickly, like I am not ready to do this at this level. But I also, like we went to camp. I really just the mental part of it didn't click. I just, we came from a wing T where we shoulder blocked everyone, not face on face, not hands. Yep. Coach White had all these different sayings with we didn't hit, I never hit with a base, one-legged takeoff. Use your hands as a steering wheel, like all these things I never did. So I really showed up. I was terrible. I also would be like, Coach White, who am I blocking? And he'd be like, Nick Bryson. And I'm like, why would you scream that so loud? Nick Bryson's laughing over there. And, I love Nick to death, but he's coming downhill as fast as possible.
Yeah, right.
It was a mess, like him, Bryson, Tom, like these guys, Wendell Bryant, like,
yep.
These guys didn't take it easy on
right.
And I respected that. So I would say I didn't figure this out until I went to see Coach White in the offseason. And I said, Coach White, I need help, man. Like, I still don't, like I'm on the scout team.
And this is going into your sophomore year?
This is going into my redshirt freshman year, my second year.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So I was like, man, I don't know what to do. Like, I literally, I spent camp for 3 weeks at the seminary just trying to survive. Mm-hmm. I was the third, fourth string court, fullback. I was never going to play. And I couldn't pick up, how fast that stuff, you talk about the speed, like, it wasn't the physical speed, although that was crazy. It was the mental speed. Like we put in 6 plays and then pass plays and then special teams. And I'm on some scout teams and I'm like, what the hell is going, your head is spinning. A lot of dudes had their head spinning and they could, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And then once the season gets closer, you're a week out. I was on the scout team. I didn't do anything we did offensive wise. So I didn't really know what was going on. Only when we sat in the meeting rooms and we watched game film. But a lot of times I didn't sit in those meetings because I went to the scout team of what we were going to play.
Okay.
So you think about like the mental game. Once the season started and I was redshirting, dude, I didn't have to do anything that we did. I just had to give a good look. Right. And I kind of loved it. I did. I'll tell you, a free year of like less responsibility as an incoming. I had friends who played. Dude, there's a whole nother stress level as an incoming 18-year-old. So I couldn't be happier to have that gap, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you figure it out. You're working out all the time. My bot would say I was there, Sundays in the developmental lift smelling like alcohol, after a night out. And I'm like, why do you guys make us lift at 11 o'clock or 9, 8, 10, whatever time it was on a Sunday? It's killer, dude. But you learn how to operate. We had the training table. We had to go to study hall as a group. So I was like, man, this is a lot on my plate all at once. And I was kind of cool not playing. But I knew let's be real. Like, you want to be on that field. You run into Camp Randall for that first time, and you're like, man, I am not redshirting next year. Like, I got to figure something out. So long story short, I went to Coach White. I go, Coach White, I need your help. What's wrong? And he goes, you can do all these things. We still need to refine, like, you know, the fundamentals. You have some tools, but like, you don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. You can name a play, I couldn't draw it up. So he goes, how about this? Every Tuesday and Thursday, every Monday, I came in there a bunch. He's like, watch one play. Just get that down pat. So I'd sit in the offense, in one of the conference rooms, and pull up 25 bob. It's just an ISO over again. I probably watch each play 100 times and go back. What is this guy doing? Why on earth is this happening? You know, and so sometimes I'd be like, Coach White, what is going on here? And he's like, okay, well, if the end crashes down and the linebacker blitzes outside, your job is to pick that guy up. So I'm like, okay. So I'd watch 50 plays of that in a row and be like, okay, I think that's sticking. And it just happened. I kept doing it. It kept doing it through all the plays that we ran, right? The outside zones, the powers, the bobs, the counters. Pass plays, not so much. I'm like, dude, let's not get crazy. We'll fix some of this stuff up later. And a lot of pass plays was just running in the flat, right? So the terminology you need to figure out. So I still did some of that, but it was all, I knew what my job was. It was not to run routes and catch passes.
Yeah.
Right. At this point, I was a blocker, and I had Jerome Pettis and Anthony Davis, right? Yep. And AD was one of my favorite people in the world. So I kept saying to myself, like, you can't let this dude down. He would never say, Bernie, you missed a block. He'd be like, dude, you're doing great. Like, talk about like a hype man. Like, AD was this great guy. And then I just kept saying,
if people haven't listened to it, go listen to that podcast that you guys did with him. That was a good episode.
Thank you. AD is one of the coolest, smartest, most amazing human beings. Like, I get chills just thinking about, like, not seeing, like, I know he lives in Atlanta now, like, not being able to see him more than, you know, once a year at a game. It pains me because he is that dude. Like, so I can go down deep into how much I love Anthony Davis, but, you know, but
yeah,
like,
sorry.
No, it's all good. It really is. But, you know, like, Calhoun showed up and you like want to live and die for these guys. Even Dwayne Smith, Booker Stanley, who's a little bit of an oddball. You're like, I can't let these guys down. And then you're like, I can't let the O-line down. And then you're like, I can't let the coaches down. They're a few rungs down at the bottom. But, like, you know, Brooks Bollinger was a starter when I started. Yep. And you're like, dude, you cannot. This dude is a dude. He's won a Rose Bowl. Like, you can't F this up, buddy. So like, as you put this pressure on yourself, some people will, you know, implode. I grew in that. And so we went to, so this is a much longer story, but we went to spring ball and I watched all this film. So I figured out what to do. And then Coach White, you know, with the training and hitting the bags and doing all this individual drill, started to figure out, like, how to use the tools that Coach White's teaching me. Yeah. And then couple it with being physical and violent. Dude, I had a great camp. I ended up getting hurt, but I was having a great camp. Pass plays, I had no idea what to do. I was like, I literally was like, I don't care what I do on this play. I was like, Brooks, don't change the play. One time he changed the play and I was like, what the hell is blue 60? I never heard of it. It's not red something, but blue 60. And it turns out blue's a pass play 60 was the protection. I was like, man, I'm not there, but I was crushing things. I had BJ Tucker. He showed up in the gap once. I feel bad because I love BJ too. Took him off his feet, like flew him up in the air. He didn't go down, but that was it. Coach White's like, oh, look at this dude. You know, like all these guys are getting hyped. Yeah. I ended up just hurting my my foot, like plantar fasciitis, whatever. Plantar fasciitis. And that was the end of that. But that's what catapulted me in and gave you, you know, a little bit of confidence to say, dude, you can play here. Like, you're scrimmaging the ones also. So you can do it. And then, you know, we went to camp and it was a competition between me and Russ Kuhns, but couldn't, you know, Russ was Chad's younger brother. Russ was great, man. Like, we had conversations. We talked about football. We talked about life. Like, I loved hanging out with him. He was a little bit of also kind of crazy. So you got to rein that in a little. But, you know, it was never like a competition that, like, broke our friendship, if that makes sense. Like, and I think that's something special. And I don't know, it doesn't happen all the time, but, like, Russ and I never had any type of beef. We were like really good friends. We hung out. We went to the bars together. We did a lot of things together.
Yeah.
And him and I were competing for playing time. And I think that's special, right? And so I want to shout out to Russ because to me that is really special. Same with AD Pet, Jerome Pettis. Like even when AD was with Booker, Stanley, and Dwayne, like we were all trying to make each other better.
Yeah.
And we all knew like people are going to play because you can't have one dude anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we thought. Like we have guys in the room like Dwayne Smith. You couldn't not let him play, but he could do X, Y, and Z, and AD could do all these other things. Right. And then Booker could come in when someone had an injury, or he could come in when someone wasn't playing great.
Yeah.
So it was a special room, but that spring practice was it. And then, I don't know, man, it just got, then it becomes, you start knowing who your competitors are. You start knowing the teams better, like Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, who I hate. I never beat them. I think me and, is it Elijah Hodge? One of the dudes on that team was awesome. And he might have gotten the better of me every time, man. But but these dudes made you better. Even like all the dudes, Carpenter, who was the other guy who played for the Packers forever from Ohio State? Not Clay.
You're not gonna AJ Hawk.
AJ Hawk. So
I was gonna say you're lucky I even knew that because I'm not. I'm not a Packer fan. I'm supposed to not say that on here, but I'm not a Packer fan.
I forget about you all the time. But you had dudes who were like the best guys in the nation playing against you, and it's like the high school thing, right? Like I got to beat these guys. No one thinks I'm good, and I'm gonna make sure that they know. If you watch some of the games, like we played at Ohio State in 2004, you could tell that that's where my mentality was. Like I was trying, and now AJ Hawk probably had like 40 tackles. I mean, he was chasing guys down from the other opposite field. But you know what? I was like all over that dude, closing him up, holding, giving him a little extra, holding him up a little bit. You do the things like you want to be a bully on the field. Off the field, I was like the nicest human being. But on the field, I was definitely not.
So with the East Coast competition in high school, do you think there's something about that translates really well to Big Ten running backs? Because, for example, you had Jonathan Taylor from New Jersey, Jalen Berger, New Jersey, Corey Clement, New Jersey. You're from New York, Dylan Jones, Maryland. I mean, you have all these guys that are such good running backs.
PJ Hill.
Anthony Hill.
Davis.
Yeah, right.
Jerome Pettis, I think, was Long Island.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there something to be said for East Coast high school football that kind of translates very well into like Big Ten systems, or even just Wisconsin's system at the time?
That's a good question. I think anyone in the nation would have taken any of those guys, right? Antosh Hawthorne came in with me. He was one of the biggest recruits I think ever at the time, D lineman out of Connecticut.
Okay.
And I think you're talking about. I do think those guys would have went to any college coach would have taken any one of those dudes. But I think there was, first off, you had the Ron Dane pipeline. AD used to say this about coaching. Yeah. AD's high school he said it's kind of ruthless there. Like not everyone was an outstanding citizen. And he said Coach White would walk in and people would be throwing things at him out of a window. And he would walk right in like, this honky tonk guy and just be like, I'm here to see Anthony Davis. And be like, yo, AD, we want you, man. Like, so like, I think it takes some chutzpah, some grit to do these things. Yeah. And I think then when you couple it with Coach Alvarez and, what he's done in his career, he grew up in Pennsylvania. He's an East Coast guy. He knew, like what it was. I would say that it's odd to pick a kid from Edgemont High School, right? Like a pretty white neighborhood, not anyone super, super duper athletic. Like, it's odd. And I think people thought that was odd. And you didn't have a lot of people go and play. You had Jimmy Kennedy, who played D-line at Penn State. He was awesome. He played in the NFL for a while. But he went to Roosevelt High School, which is in Yonkers. It's a little tougher than, where I grew up, which wasn't very tough at all. So I think there's some things. I think there's, maybe a little bit of the chip is like, hey, no one believes in me, so I'm going to make them believe. I don't know if like that wasn't in my head all the time, but in my head was, I want to be the best I can be. I don't want to let anyone down. And my love for Wisconsin happened almost immediately. Like, it's pretty crazy. Like, I fell in love at first sight, and I've never not been in love with Wisconsin. My wife's from there. All the stuff we have in our house is Wisconsin. I work for the university. Like, what more can I possibly, besides living there, I can't do anything more. So, I think like you get so ingrained. I didn't want to let anyone down. Like, you could see how important Wisconsin, we don't have a college team. Syracuse, nobody watched. They were so far away. Rutgers, it's Jersey, and nobody really watched them at that time. So there's nobody else. Penn State, but too far away, and it was Pennsylvania. So you didn't have that culture. And then you came to Wisconsin, and you saw people on Saturdays. People show up family day. You're signing everything. You're taking pictures with kids. Yeah. Like, very new stuff, right? And you feel like a celebrity, but you also feel like, wow, man, I'm like these fans are invested in me, and I can't just let them down. Like, I can't let Wisconsin down. I do feel like I've let them down sometimes, but like we didn't win the Rose Bowl. We didn't win the Big Ten when I was there. Not only did I let me down, I think everyone feels that way. We let Wisconsin down. So it's like Saturday was Badgers, Sunday Packers. Like, where can you get that, man?
Right.
Wisconsin's a special in and of itself. Like, it's the coolest place to be.
Since we're name dropping running backs, a lot of people like to call Wisconsin RBU, and I actually asked your fellow fullback in arms here, Brady Ewing, this question as well. But I want to get your take on it.
Yeah.
So I saw on an Instagram post you have a shirt that says "Welcome to Fullback City" with the likes of so I guess with the likes of like Cecil Martin, you talked about him, Alec Ingold, Derek Watt, Brady. I mean, quite a few others. John Schnell. Do you think it
Presley.
should be renamed Fullback University?
Instead? Oh, for sure. Totally. What's cool is, and I love this about Wisconsin, because it's changed sometimes, depending on coaching, whatever. But Coach White coached both fullbacks and tailbacks. And we were a group. We were the running back room. We called ourselves the dog pound. So like, that was the room we were. And in that room, I'll just say this. We were bad, man. We were bad. Like, you might have some linebackers like Zalewski and other people like, yeah, right, these guys didn't hit that hard. That is complete BS. It was me, Chris Presley, who might have been the hardest hitter on the planet. And you ever see that Nuck If You Buck video when he squatted? Yep. Dude, strongest dude pound for pound. Broke Aaron Gibson's squat record. Like, come on, dude. He ripped the shirt. Like, so you had him, you had Josh Baltz, you had Bill Rentmeester, who I think is kicking down doors in like the FBI or something. So you had these like, oh yeah, Greg Root, who is a tough SOB out of California. So you had these 5 guys. Now, maybe not everyone had like the most skill, but dude, the hitting, the cracking you would hear at practice was no joke, right? And we were part of this room where, you had these great studs, and you're like, we need to make them better. Or we need to make sure that they're not touched, or our guy is hemmed up, or whatever we got to do. But you're talking about, even after that, like, every single dude who played fullback was no schlub at all. Look, Jackson Aker, even right now, has been over. He's done every single thing under the sun.
Yep.
So it's exciting. It sucks that we went away from it for a couple of years, but now that we're kind of having it come back, super exciting. Like, dude, you can't name another university that has like 10 plus years.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
and we've had the best running backs for 20 yeyears.
Right.
I mean, starting with Ron Dane, going to Jonathan Taylor, and then Braylon Allen, Ches. These dudes are dudes. And we're not even naming like James White, Melvin Gordon. Right. You're talking about Monte Ball. I mean, you're talking about guys who are the best of the best, and they all had fullbacks who were one of the best also, and it does correlate.
So between you and Brady, and watching both your guys' interviews, so for example, in the Badger Herald after your iconic Penn State game, which we can dive into later here, you say, hopefully Davis is 100% next week because I can't run anymore. When he comes back, we're going to be a different team. It just seems like the fullback position, you guys are all so humble and happy to be that go-to guy to spring your running back for these massive highlight plays. Do you think the coaches see that quality in guys throughout practices, and that's how they base who they transition to fullback? Or is there another quality you think makes a great fullback?
That's a good question, man. In my mind, after Penn State, I couldn't have been more talk about the mental game. I knew what to do. And crazy enough, Coach White would give me reps at tailback, 1, maybe 2 a week. But you get the mental reps, right? You see what you're doing. You listen to Coach White over and over and over again, drill that down, and then you get a couple reps here and there, and it kind of clicks. That was a special night, but I knew, I'm not an idiot. I might not be the smartest person in the room, but I knew Anthony Davis was literally an All-American. I was not that person. I'm not running. That dude was every piece of him was a muscle. He could cut on a dime. His jump cuts were like straight up beautiful. I knew he was the guy. Like, there's no question in my mind that he wasn't coming back, and I wanted him to be that guy because we're going to win with him. We're not winning games with me. Here and there, maybe lucky. We're not winning without Anthony Davis. So, but to get to the quality, I think you got to have a guy who's a lunchbox guy. Like, it's not a showy position really. Like, you score a couple touchdowns maybe in your career. I mean, but it's a I don't know how to say this. I always think of my mother-in-law in Wisconsin, in Verona, when I say things, so I don't want to upset her. But like, you gotta have like what are they saying? Damn, what's that movie? You gotta have marbles, man. You gotta have you gotta have marbles, dude. It's a non-glorious position that you literally run into linebackers full speed and D linemen and other people and take hits after hit and hit after hit just for some other person to have success. So you need to be a lunchbox dude who can do that for 4 quarters. You need to be able to do it in practice. You need to know, like, you're going to get some high fives and some butt slaps here and there, but you're not the dude. Like, the dude is the guy behind you. And to get him, as long as he keeps being that dude, you're doing a good job. Like, you're that guy. And I always loved it because, you always had the O-line, who I absolutely adored. These guys were dudes also. So you don't want to let those guys down. I think there's, everyone held each other accountable and like made each other better. But you're in college, like, you didn't want to be the one guy to mess something up. And granted, it happens, but you want to be the guy who bounces back, next play and say, I F that up and it's not going to happen again. Right? Like, I can't let that happen. I'm letting my team down. But I would say the lunchbox and the physicalness, like, you can't be soft and play fullback. It's not reality. And then just to be willing to, like, literally run through a wall for your guy next to you.
Yeah. So since we're on the topic of that game, there are some iconic games that come to mind when hardcore Badger fans think about Badger football. That Penn State game seems to be one of those games, as there are so many articles talking about it or referring back to it in some way. So, like, for example, the New York Times just did an article on it last year, 20 years later.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if you listen to Part of My Take. Big Cat just referenced you talking to Brett
Michigan
Bielema.
State. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it has to be a special and humble feeling still being in the hearts and minds of that many fans over the years. And I guess, why do you think that game still lives on so vividly over 20 years later?
I think people have special days or special, what's that word? You have a special night where somehow things click and dudes are doing what they're, like, what they've been coached to do, but it all comes together and it truly is special. Right. And it's a whole, it brought in a lot of different things for me, at least for who I am, my character, my religion. I'm not a super observant, Jewish person, but I observe the main house. It's like, you observe Christmas or Easter, right? You observe these holidays. So, it happened to be on that day. It turned into a game day, which kind of elevated it to a whole new level. And I started the game as a fullback, so we have a first half of like playing horrible.
Yeah,
I was got off. I was exhausted. I was tired. But then there was IVs before the game, and I didn't warm up. And Aaron Andrews before the game's like, Matt Bernstein's going to play, but he just observed Yom Kippur, and he's out here warming up right now. It's like 4:30 at night. So like that part is really cool, and that's a whole nother thing. But I was like, AD's hurt. We still have 3 other guys. Like this doesn't matter. Like I never thought that. Like they're always like, oh, if everything happens and and this happens, you're going to be the guy. And I'm like, yeah, right, dude. That never happened. Right. But Coach White came in at halftime, and we were sucking. I think Dwayne actually had his heart issue, so he wasn't playing. Booker was hurt, got hurt in the first half, I think. And then Jamil was like a freshman. I don't think he was just ready for that yet. Mm-hmm. But he was there, and it was like 7-3. I mean, you're talking about 2 behemoth teams. Like Penn State was really good that year. Coach White comes in at halftime, and he's like, hey, dude, you're in at halfback. And I was like, hell yeah. And I went in, I changed my cleats. Like I thought I had faster cleats. I don't know. I just was like, I'm going to put these up. And, I got in Greg Root's face, who's the backup fullback. I'm like, yo, dude, we got to do this now, man. Like we're in. We used to call ourselves fatbacks because it was 265 and he was like 255. And then John Klinkscale played O-line, was like, dude, follow me. Don't just follow me. So you have like all these things, the O-line was pumped. I was excited. And, after the first play, if you watch it, we do a counter. It's 11-yard gain right in front of Coach Alvarez. Coach Alvarez gives me like a slap on the back. Klinkscale asshole someone. I'll use the curse word because he literally crushed this dude, a cornerback off the field. And I thought I cut right off his butt. So I'm hyped. I'm giving these dudes, you see Dantes Sanders, who's one of my good friends, run off. He was a linebacker, run onto the field, high five Dwayne Smith with his jerseys, like going crazy. Like you see all this happening. And it's just one of those special nights where, I knew the O-line was going to do it. They were phenomenal. Joe Thomas, Dan Benning, my guy, Donovan Raiola. And Greg Root, and I'll tell you this is something really special on that first leap, right? We run a 25-yard, it's a bob. So I mentioned this before. The end crashes down. Greg Root has probably taken 1 rep in his entire 4 years on the end crashing and the linebacker coming off the edge, right? He probably has never done 1 rep. And the dude blocks it perfectly, and it just springs me right out. And so, like, you had dudes who didn't play a lot or much at all who knew what to do, right? And and Greg was held accountable that night, and he produced and he played great. So, and I do think, at the same time, like the O-line, it could have been anybody back there. Like these guys were so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, it's game day. Penn State, Wisconsin's usually a huge battle.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone gets hurt, and then they put in this, I don't want to say mythical creature, but like this, fat, fullback, and who's successful because of, even like you watch Darren Charles, all the, Brandon Williams had some amazing catches. All these guys were blocking downfield. Like everyone, the intensity kind of grew, and you saw things people probably couldn't have done regularly. Like everyone became like a mythical creature. So it just is, it's nice. Like I really enjoy that was part of my life. I think it's one of the best nights, best days of my life outside of like having kids.
Yeah.
And I'll say getting married, but like, let's be real. It's kids, Penn State game. Sorry, Allie, I love you, but like this game's kind of really amazing. And I'll say it's a tie. But yeah, I think when you look at that, it was on Sports Center. So, and people love Wisconsin. So it's this kind of special experience that I think a lot of people shared in a stadium. It's the same thing as like when you say, where were you when it was the crazy towel game, like the Ron Dane,
or like Ohio State.
Or the Melvin Gordon.
David Gilreath return, like those are just massive. Yeah.
Right. So these are massive things. Like people remember those games and those things, and everyone knows where they were for the Gilreath return. There's not one person who doesn't.
Right.
But like this was something really special. And I think it kind of shows the culture of Wisconsin at the time of like hard-nosed, we're going to grind you down and beat you, and we were not going to be showy. We're just going to out physical this you and come at us.
Yeah, I mean, it's the epitome of all the players buying into a system is what it seems like. What it seemed like.
Yep.
Right. That's what every coach wants to happen.
I mean, we also had the best defense I think to ever play there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about. I can name almost every person. Jimmy Leonard was in the backfield. Yep. Sparky, Brett Bell. You're talking about linebackers were good, and then the D line was the best. I mean, they're outrageous. Every one of those guys played in the NFL. So you're kind of lucky to have the defense who could help you on a game when I think we won like 16-13 or 16-10, something like that.
Right.
But yeah, man, one of those really cool. Like if it comes up every single time, if it comes up every day in my life, I'll be happy that it comes up every day.
We don't have to go into great detail, but you brought up your wife.
Yeah.
From your interviews on Believe Badgers, more specifically the one with Brian Bott, you talk about Wandos. You definitely seem like you had fun in college. Madison's bar scene, in my eyes, is unrivaled. You have the Terrace, you have State Street, you get all the way to Capitol Bars. Did you have a go-to bar back in college, and do you have a favorite place to go now? Or is it always going to be Wando's, especially since that's where you met your wife?
It's a great question. So I've always been a pretty entertaining human being, and I like to drink beer. Or pretty much anything with alcohol in it, I like. We would drink in fields in high school. We always had a good time. My friends who were all football players, we would go out after games and drink beers and have a good time. And in New York, you could find places to give you, like, you could buy beer almost everywhere. You had fake IDs, you do it. So when I showed up to Wisconsin, that culture wasn't any different to me. It was actually normal. So I'd go to almost everyone at the college club at the time went to not Catholic Memorial. That's where Kleber went to. What's the Catholic university right by the stadium?
Edgewood.
So almost all those guys went to Edgewood. Jason Palermo, who was my roommate when he was like my liaison when I showed up. His dad was a coach. He ended up being a guard for a while. He was my roommate one year, but so we were very friendly, and all his friends worked at the college club. Jordan, who owned, his dad owned it. So every time I showed up there, I didn't have to show ID. There was no cameras checking out bartenders.
Right.
You just walk. They would say, "Please give me something." I used to give my my mom's Blockbuster card, and they let you walk in. I'd buy beers, and it was like we're having a blast. And that just so I loved the college club when I was in college. I loved Wando's. Wando's, was like more of a 21 type of place, but I started working there. This is where it got great. I started working there. Jay played for the team. Wandersky played for the team. And there were some other guys who ex guys who were hurt, who were like the bouncers and stuff. So I used to get in there pre-21, but then I started working there. And then after I started working there, I loved it. I'd go there. That became my spot. You'd hold court on the second floor. You could always walk in. The college club, was the same type of thing. So I used to go back and forth, sometimes multiple times during the night.
Yeah.
Tuesdays, I loved the city because they had that. If I was going out, because the Tuesday nights you weren't really during the season. I never went out. Off season, maybe if I wasn't exhausted from working out. But they had that good vodka that was infused with strawberries. Capitol Bars, not so much. I don't want to walk up there,
Right. Well, I only mentioned Capitol Bars just for the sole fact, maybe when you go back and you're staying down there already.
So now, I'm an old man, but I still have a chair with my name on it at Wando's. So I always go in there. I always buy somebody who's sitting in that chair a drink, and don't tell them why. They think I'm completely wackadoo. But Jay's been good to me over the years. I go there as much as possible. I love it there. It's one of my favorite places. And then Kitty Corner, Dottie's. Love the people at Dottie's. Yep. You also Nitty Gritty I used to love to go to. But the span of 2 blocks, Red Shed. I mean, if you really wanted to tie one on, you go to the Red Shed for 2 drinks. Mondays. I mean, there was a plethora of places to go.
Mondays made their drinks real strong back in the day. I don't know if they still make drinks real strong.
Mondays was the place you could have one drink and go to the next place and be like, I need a beer.
Yeah.
Right. So like, and there are a lot of guys on the team who would work their ass off and then play very hard too. And so, we didn't really get to touch on this, but like, I loved being in the locker room with a lot of different people, man. Like, maybe that's like the New Yorker in me, like being around a lot of random, different type of people, different religions, different cultures. But you went to Wisconsin, you're like, dudes are, I said this guy, Dan Benning, who played O-line. I'm like, Dan, why are you in all this orange? What the hell are you doing? And he's like, I just came back from hunting. I'm like, what? What the hell are you talking? Hunt what? Like, that was new to me. Like, literally going into a field and shooting a deer was completely foreign to me. Like, just didn't happen. So getting to know these people, I went up to Bob Doherty, was an Oshkosh guy. I went to visit him. Mike Allen in Hudson, Wisconsin. Some of my most favorite weekends. Some of the drunkest I've ever been. I cut grass the first time in Hudson, Wisconsin on a junkie.
Okay,
I didn't have grass in my house. So like, you have all these amazing experiences with dudes who there was no other Jewish people on the team. And that never was an issue. Like, it was never something that mattered. It didn't matter what your skin color was. Like, none of that stuff mattered. That's what I think is so cool about sports. It transcends all this other BS in the world.
Yeah.
And none of it mattered. It just mattered who you were. Are you a good person? And then we share all these like funny, ridiculous experiences. I went to Country Fest. I used to go to Michael Kleber used to take us all over the place. He's still one of my best friends to this day. All over Milwaukee. It's one of my favorite cities now. Brady Street, like the things we used to do. I'm happy that no one videotaped most of the stuff we did. But all these things, like I actually went hunting once with Ryan Simmons, who actually lived, here's a crazy story, who grew up next to my wife, right next to me. They grew up next to each other. And I couldn't hold a gun because I don't have a license, but I sat in a tree stand. Couldn't have been more cold. We saw only a possum. This guy, Ryan Simmons, had like this like souped up shotgun that could like shoot 100 yards away. So he goes, so literally I'm sitting there. I'm like, dude, I want to talk, right? I'm gonna talk.
Yeah.
I'm like, Ryan, he's like, dude, we can't talk. I'm like, did you bring beer? No, we don't drink. I'm like, how do we do it? We were sitting in this little ass tree stand, my butt's, I'm freezing to death. And a possum walks up and he's like, I'm like, what the hell is that thing? Like, I don't know how many possums I've seen in my life. I'm like, he's like, that's a possum. He's like, you want to see it disappear? I'm like, no, I don't want to see it disappear. A shotgun blast from 10 feet away. Like, I'm okay with, I guess, that type of stuff. But these experiences, like, I always say I'm the most fortunate human being because I went from New York, which I love to death, to Wisconsin, which I thought was like possibly one of the best places in the world. My middle brother came to Wisconsin after. So we were there for 4 years together. I have all these experiences that I wouldn't have gotten being on the football team. And he has all these experiences he wouldn't have gotten without me being on the football team. So it's all these cool, like overlapping things. And then my other brother, he's too smart. My dad's like, dude, you're going to Columbia. So he went to Columbia. Obviously he's doing the best out of all of us because he's also very good with numbers, but he would come to Wisconsin so much. One dude asked him, he's like, Ben, I haven't seen you in a while. And Ben's like, what do you mean? And he's like, where have you been? And my brother Ben literally went to this guy going, dude, I don't go to school here. And this blew this. He's like, what? I thought you were here so much. So like, these are all like these experiences that I think we're also fortunate to have. And it really would have never happened without Wisconsin.
So post-college, you get a chance to go got invited to do a camp with the Lions.
Yep.
But in an article, you say basically at that point your back was giving out, and you had to make the tough decision to walk away from that opportunity. I guess, do you ever look back and have what ifs? Like, had you gone somewhere else or played a different position, maybe things would have ended differently. Maybe you could have done something differently. Or was your back bound to give out either way based on how physically you played football?
That's a great question. I mean, there's always what ifs. Like what if I actually was thinking about this the other day? Like, I thought I trained hard, but did I train hard? Like, you're thinking like, could I have done more? Should I have been eating better?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yes, probably. There's probably more I could have done. No, I actually got cut by the Lions. You know what? At that point, they were not willing, and I wouldn't have been if I'm in the NFL. Give me time to, like Coach White did, get the plays in. NFL is, they give you a binder that's 3 inches thick, and they're like, dude, know this. And this is when I can't remember the offensive coordinator came, and it was like so many different formations, so many different motions, so many different plays, so many checks, so much. I just couldn't get it. I literally couldn't pick it up. It wasn't the physicalness, because that wasn't. But you know what? Like, I think something changed at some point. I ended up getting hurt my senior year, and I think something changed in like my mentality of like, I love football to death, and I want to keep doing it, but I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing it. And the second you have that thought in your head, I think it's just very quick decline. So I ended up getting cut from them. I did a few camps. And then I went and played arena football, and that's where my back started getting like knocked out of shape. And it was a blast. I had a really good time. I met some good dudes. I had a lot of fun living in Philadelphia. But again, this is where I loop back into my dad. My dad's like, dude, listen, I tell you something hard right now. Like, football is ending for you. What are you going to do after? He's like, it's this. You might, if you make it this team again, you only have one more year left.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, what do you do after? And I'm like, that's a good question. So I ended up going back to school, and I became a teacher because I loved teaching. I was a coach for a while. Like, I love that. Elementary school, was obsessed with coaching, teaching those kids. So it's like, it's nice to have that mindset of like, hey, let me listen to my dad again. Like, he's not doing it maliciously. Like, the writing's on the wall. I actually just went because Ron Jaworski and, what's his name was, really amazing hair. Not a singer from Jersey. Bon Jovi.
Oh, Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi owned the team. I met him twice. So like, I went for that. Like, it was this experience. Like, these guys just took it over. It was kind of cool.
The Philadelphia Soul. Okay, yeah,
Philadelphia Soul. So I ended up, another cool experience is, every time they're like, does anyone want to do, I always would raise my hand when anyone's like, do you want to do volunteer work? So I'd raise my hand. No, I was mostly the only person who would raise it every single time. So I used to do that in college too. I was like, I'm good. I got nothing else to do, and I love giving back. So I'm like, I'll do it. So when we got here, I raised my hand every single time. And so at the end of the year, Bon Jovi or the team was like, dude, you won the humanitarian award for this team. I was like, what? Like, they do it for in Philadelphia. They probably do it around, but they did it. So like, one person won from the Eagles, the Sixers, the baseball team, I'm blanking, the Phillies, whatever, the hockey team. So I'm like, the Flyers. So I'm like, cool. I don't know. It turns out it was this big ass banquet, but right before it, they go, the communication marketing person calls me. He's like, Bernie, we want to fly you to California with this guy, Mike, on the team who I thought was awesome. And you are going to work with Jimmy Carter will be there for Habitat for Humanity. They're like, can you go? I'm like, yes, I would love to. And they're like, great. So I flew out, economy class, let's be real. And I flew out there, and I was stunned. I was like real super Barry Pepper, the sniper from Saving Private Ryan.
Okay,
dude, one of my favorite characters. I walked up to him. I'm like, holy moly, dude. And he's like, hey, how are you? I'm like, I'm Matt Bernstein. I play for the Philly Soul. Like, I'm a humongous fan of yours. Oh, he's like, oh yeah, cool, dude, thanks. He's like, man, we're all here. Don't worry, we're just all here. And I'm like, I can't wait to get on the roof with you, dude. Like, I can't wait. Just like joking around. So I did this for 4 days. Like, it was a blast. And then this is when Bon Jovi. So I won the humanitarian award, and I'm like, oh, that's great. No, I didn't know the concept. And they're like, oh, dude, we're going to send a car, and you have to come to this banquet, and you have to do a speech. I'm like, what? Dude, I don't play professional sports. Like, this isn't and I guess it was professional because we were professionals, but like, I felt there's like a Philadelphia Soul playing arena football. I don't have anything. Jimmy Rollins, who was like the shortstop of like the Phillies,
right? Who
I'm like, holy, like, these dudes are superstars. I'm making $36K. These guys are making $36 million, right? So long story short, they send like this town car. I went to, dude, it was awesome. I went, I had a speech. I think people said it was the funniest speech they've ever heard. I start off, I'm like, I really need to apologize to everyone in this room. And Jimmy Rollins, you're the biggest one I need to apologize to because I'm a Mets fan. Everyone started laughing and booing. It was hilarious. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I love Philadelphia. So it was like one of these really cool, like, I didn't even know they gave an award out. I still have it. That's how much it means to me. But just doing it because I just wanted to do it. Like, and between you and me and everyone else who can hear this, they also started letting me pick the cheerleaders that would come to do these things with me. You know, I would request a cheerleader, and sometimes they'd come. So like, I never talked to them. I just would look at them and wave and say hi. Like I was a big wimp at the time, but it was like a very enjoyable experience. And then my dad's like, dude, this is over for you. Went back to school, got my master's.
Yeah. As we talked about a little bit past playing football, you now are a co-host on Believe in Badgers. And to me, that's a perfect role for you. You guys both do an absolutely awesome job, but you are a storyteller. Like, I always love listening to your stories on that. Is that a New York thing, or is that something passed down from your parents, or where do you think that comes from?
It's I think it's a bit of everything. You know, I think it's a bit of like being a New Yorker, somehow thinking like we're the best, which is definitely not reality, but you know, like we all think we are. You know, I think it's coming out to you know, being independent in the Midwest, pretty much with like a cell phone that didn't work. Like, you had to talk to people. Yeah. I've always been able to talk to you. You used to have to call people's houses and be like, you know, hey, Mrs. Smith, like, can I speak to your son or your daughter, or whatever it was? Like, you have to talk to people. It's crazy. You know, I think it's confidence. Like, my wife says, like, she's like, I hate how happy you always are and confident. Like, I don't understand how you are that. And I'm like, I don't know. I just enjoy life. I enjoy things. I enjoy learning about people. That's why I'm in fundraising for Wisconsin. Like, I enjoy getting to know people. Like, I think the more connections and the more friends you have, the better you are. It's not what everyone agrees. So I understand that too. Like, you might want to have 5 friends. Cool. Do you. I'm a big do you guy, right? Like, I'm happy if you're happy. But just, man, just, I think the podcast I do with Matt Perkins is just, you know, like, it's pure passion. It is pure, like, I love Wisconsin football. It gave me everything. Like, when I really, Adam, when I think back, besides my dad and my mom, who gave me everything? It sounds bananas to think about. Barry Alvarez. Like, or who was the guy who took a chance on a New York Jew to come to Wisconsin to play fullback from a small ass high school in New York that nobody really gets recruited from? And whoever that person is, all of a sudden now I have a wife from Wisconsin. So my best friends are from Wisconsin. I work for Wisconsin. Like, I have kids because of Wisconsin. This all happened because of, 1, I played football, and 2, somebody said, we want you. And that is, I always kind of wither it down to Coach Alvarez. Right. So how cool is that?
Since you brought it up, was it kind of a full circle moment, having played for UW, graduating from UW, and then eventually coming back and being hired by UW?
It is full circle. Every day I am like, wow, I am the happiest person because I literally do a job making the university better. You know, and fundraising might not have the best, like, you know, thoughts behind it, but man, people are making a difference at the university, and I'm helping do that, right? And to me, that's so cool, man. Like, it is. I don't know what else to say. Like, I love the university. I love the football team. I love the athletics. So I don't want to just put it the football team, but I love the state. Like, I love Madison. When I go back, I'm like, you could not find a cloud 9 higher than where I'm. Like, I'm the happiest. If you see me at the Union or at Wando's, with a brat and a spotted cow, and if I'm at Wando's, a Coors Light, dude, just know that I am riding the highest I am the happiest person I've ever been. Outside of like being with my family, which I'm, you know, that's like, you know, one of the coolest things to do is I look at my kids and I'm like, if I'm pissed or not at what their behavior is, because let's be real, a lot of times their behavior is, well, my 13-month doesn't count. But my 4-year-old, like, she knows when she's messing with me. And I'm like, you're me. Oh, my God. I used to mess with people, and you're me.
They hold up a mirror to you for sure.
And I'm like, but I look at her, and I'm like, I kind of laugh because I'm like, damn, you were so bad like 30 minutes ago. And now you're like, Daddy, come read a book with me. And I'm just looking at her like, man, you're my kid. Like I made you.
Yeah.
And you can be horrible, but I love you so much. And it's so funny. Now I'm like laughing. Like I was laughing. She's like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, honestly, I just love you. She's like, I love you too. I'm like, where has this been all day? Like just at the end of the day. But yeah, man, like to just think back and say, without my dad, I would have never been here. And without Barry, I would have never been in Wisconsin. And without, like my mom and those guys, like, how do I get, there's more people. So like Coach Conley and all these other coaches and teachers and people who took a vested interest in making me a better human being. But dude, where would I be? Would I even have kids? Would I be married? I don't know. Like, would I be happy? Like would I have a Penn State story? Like, right. I don't think any of this happened. So like, I'm grateful every day. And if I could call Coach Alvarez, he'd hate it and tell him thank you every morning. I would do that though.
Yeah. You talk about your father and how he helped make not only the decision for the game against Penn State. If anybody's read those articles, he kind of walked you through or helped you make that decision from what I understand. But basically any kind of big life decisions, it sounds like, is that the standard you're hoping to live up for your own kids?
Totally. I mean, 100%. I mean, I look up to my parents. They've literally done everything, I think, since I've been born to make me and my brothers better people. Got us to college, financially, I think they set us up, like something that I don't think a lot of people do. And I don't know, I'm not speaking, I don't talk to people about this. No one outside of my job, no one wants to talk about money. But, my dad one day was like, hey, I got your bar mitzvah money. And I'm like, it was like $50. Like, what do you mean you got my bar mitzvah? I didn't even know like as a 13-year-old, like it's kind of like a sweet 16. But as a Jewish person, it's at 13, it's like this big ceremony to become a man or a woman, depending on obviously your gender or whatever. So like, I don't know. I was like, cool. I didn't know this is like 5 years ago. So I'm like, great. Or maybe it was like 8-10 years ago. And he's like, we have this Merrill Lynch set up for you. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, I don't care. I have no need. I don't understand. I have no idea what you're showing me.
Right.
Dude, it turns out like 20 years of sitting in a fund is not so bad
right.
for money. And so like my dad, and he just set that up. And then, like when I have a small account, 1,000 square feet in Tarrytown, New York. Mm-hmm. We used all that money. I mean, we used that in other funds. My dad was very helpful. I was able to keep 2 football checks from the Lions for being hurt, and you got a game check. And my dad, since I didn't pay for college, he split grad school with me. Okay. So like financially, and he let me live at home for like 10 years. And I also loved it. Like, I'll tell you what, some of the best times I had is just drinking wine with my parents. Yeah. And like too much wine with them. Like we'd wake up the next day and be like, holy shit, I got to go teach kids, man. My dad's like, well, I don't got to do anything today. So for my kids, and this might be deeper than you want to go, like I set up investment funds for them. Small potatoes. I put in like $25 a month in these. But my goal is like, in 30 years, I hope they don't ever touch it, right? I hope it's something that just grows. 529 is the same thing. It's a college fund, right? And I'm like, but the investment fund is for something down the road that you can't afford, that you want. One of my brothers used it for his grad school. He went to Stern, NYU, so business school in Stern is pretty substantial. So like my dad did that, right? Like they've set us up for all types of financial, I wouldn't say security, but financial help, right? Like they're not millionaires. They're not going to give me $1 million at some point, but they helped me buy this place, right? They helped me now invest in real estate, small potatoes, but it's all crazy now. It's even my house is growing in what the cost is. So I think like in that way, it's just like something that you can say, Dad, what else did you do for me? Like, what do I not know? Because you set me up to have money down the road that I never touched for 30 years, 25 years. That's a good amount of time to let it grow. Yeah. So like, what else did you do? And it's in that, like, I try to instill some wisdom on people, but nobody really want to hear like you should have an investment, for your kids' future and put $20 in it each month. Like, it's easy to set up. Nobody wants to know. Like, I have a financial person that I met through this work, and I'm like, dude, do you take people who don't make a lot of money? The guy's like, we love that. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
I trust you with my money. Can I invest with you? And I ask my brothers questions about investments and all these other things. But really, all my investments, and this is pretty bananas, besides my 401k, is for my kids.
Yeah.
Like, unless something tragically happens to me or my wife, everything's for them. God forbid, I'm sure you're a dad now, you have life insurance on yourself and your wife. God forbid something happens. I'm like, yo, honey, pay for college. That's it. Just get that off your slate, pay off our mortgage, and just live happy. That's all I want you guys to do. So, like, dude, at 33, I wasn't going to get myself life insurance. Like, who was I going to give it to? Nobody.
Right.
It's like all these things are pretty crazy, but I do think, like, you look up, I look up to my parents and even Allie's parents. I asked, her dad is is personal finance. And I'm like, hey, what do you think? I'm not, listen, I'm no genius. My IQ is, I got 1,050 on my SATs. So understand, Adam, like, I wasn't a good test taker, but that's a good excuse. I also hated it. So I was like, C. And I just needed to break 900. Like, because I knew that's
you're talking to the right demographic then, because they did ACTs for college in Wisconsin, so I don't even know what a good SAT score is.
1,600 was the best, and I was, and you know what? I don't care, because like, at this point of my life, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care if everyone knows, and I think that's important. Like, it's confidence. I think that's what Barry instilled, Coach Conley. Like, dude, you have all these other intangibles that maybe someone with a 1,600 doesn't have. So listen, I'm happy. I think my parents set us up for success. What my wife, like what we've done for my kids and setting them up with insurances and having, things that maybe even their grandkids could have. To me, that's all, longevity and just leaving a legacy. Like, I didn't know my grandfathers. They passed away before I think I was like 3 at the latest. So, but if they left an insurance policy for me, how special is that? Like, it's they didn't, because I just don't think you did that back in the day. But like,
right.
I want to do that I want my kid to say, I have X amount of money as a 40-year-old, and I'm going to buy a house with it, or I'm going to pay for college, or I'm not going to touch it, and I'm going to give it to my kids. Like, I just want that to happen. Like, and Adam, I'm not talking about like, generational wealth. I'm just talking about like a little nest egg that gets you a little bit closer to your goal.
You're starting to walk down the kids in the future when they're older path here. So I have 2 questions. We'll close this interview. I have 2 questions I always ask every guest when they come on here. So the first one being, if your daughter somehow find this years down the road when they're 18, what is one thing you hope they take away from this interview?
Man, I hope they take away how passionate I am about things, how much I love your family, I think, is number one. I love Wisconsin. They'll know that from their entire life, but how much I really cared about them, even from the beginning, and how hard it is, like how hard it is to be a parent, and that they will hopefully experience it if they're lucky enough that they will experience it and understand, like, oh my God, I listened to my dad at 18 on this Dadger video or podcast, and literally I'm sitting here at 35 with a kid going, he's so right. Like, wow, look at this. But I also want them to be sitting there saying, my dad did everything for me. He was the best. He was my advocate. My friend Joey T was a little bit of a rambunctious human being. His dad never believed anyone ever that his son did something wrong, and Joey would tell his dad exactly what happened. And I want that. I want that in some way. I want the communication to be open. I want my kids' lives to be the best lives they can possibly have. I would love for them to have no roadblocks, but I think most important is to teach them how to navigate those roadblocks when they pop up, right? Like, someone's being mean to somebody else. What do you do? Someone's being mean to you. What do you do? Like, and I know that's like a young person, but like, what do you do when you are struggling at work? Like, what do you like? How do you how do you persevere? Like all these things we hope we do. I do hope my kids, but I really just hope they enjoy every part of life and they just love themselves and they love each other. I would love for, I had 2 girls, so it's completely out of my wheelhouse, which is exciting. But I want them, like you have 2 girls. For me, they're going to be the best friends forever until, they're hopefully 150 years old.
Right.
And I see that with my brothers, right? Like we love each other to death. We have the best inside jokes. My dad's been part of many of these, and my mom's been there too, but it's different when it's, 4 dudes. Then, so I'm excited for like my wife and daughters to experience kind of this pact, and then have them, they're a good age group that I think their friends will be a little bit different, but once they move on to like after college, they'll all kind of intermingle. Yeah. It's a longer. I talk a lot, dude. So,
no,
but I just want them to listen back and be like, man, my dad was a fun dude who loved us so much.
Great. Perfect. And then, so lastly, last question. I'm sure you get asked this all the time being on a podcast based around this exact subject, but how do you think the Badgers are going to do this next year?
I have high hopes, but my high hopes are different. They're not wins and losses. I think I think the Badgers have done a lot in a small amount of time, in a time period when college football was like up in the air, and you change coaches, you change offenses, you change all these things. I don't think we weathered that storm, right? Like we just did too much in a time period that was a little too volatile, right? Transfer portal, NIL all came, and then all of a sudden it's fickle and a bunch. So it's not a knock on anyone. It's just like these 2 waves hit each other, and it's like, too much happened, and we're kind of stuck here. I think Fickle can do it. I think he can pull us out of like this crazy place. I think he's trying, like this year specifically, to say you're either in or you get the hell out, which I like. Yeah. He fired Longo. He got a new coach. But man, it's hard to be a coach in NIL transfer portal. There's no contracts. Anyone could be anywhere all the time.
Right.
So for me, it's not wins or losses. We're playing the hardest schedule. We have 6 teams in the top 25. Like, how dare that happen? But the Big Ten. So to me, it's the quality of play, right? Are we competitive? Do we look like we want to have fun? Are we trying? Are we on the field? Like it's the eye test.
What the progression looks from last year to this year?
Did we get better? Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Like I would love to see people like, listen, we didn't win every game. I was one of the last teams to not be in a bowl game. But when you watch those games, they were competitive, and you weren't going to watch anybody giving up or not trying their hardest. And I'm not saying that's happening. All I'm saying is we got to get back to where you don't look at the team and say, oh, they don't want to be there. I don't want that for our guys or our coaches. Yep. I want them to have a good time, to have success, just like we did. Like I want that for them. I want them to have the experience I had. I also think no one can have the experience I had, but I want these guys to say Wisconsin's the best thing I've ever done. And
similar experience.
Similar. So, I think it's going to be, I think if I had to really give you an honest, like, I think it's going to be a tough year. I think we're still in the growing pain stage. I think it'll be tough. I think you got a couple more years before we see like the daylight. Like somebody said it, I don't remember. I've heard it a bunch of places, but they're like, when did Wisconsin become like a win 6 games and go to a bowl game team? And that sucks, right? Like you never want to be that. We were a win 9 games and go to a good bowl game, win 10 games, maybe go to the Big Ten, and there was an obstacle there. We never got over that hump, but it's, now looking back, it's nicer to be at 10 wins than, at 5 or 6, but who knows? Who knows? I think the coaching staff's pretty solid. They're trying to do everything. Dude, I get paid small potatoes, man. That's it. I just wish that these guys have a good time playing.
All right, there you have it. Huge thanks to Matt Bernstein for bringing his signature energy to this episode of the Dadger. From football memories to fatherhood lessons and life in the alumni world, it's clear the Badger spirit never leaves. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and drop a comment who you'd love to see next. Until next time, on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.